Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's runner is the owner of the nutrition brand RNWY. We talk a lot about his brand, the benefits of the different product offerings they have, and how they impact running performance. But before we got there, we break down his first marathon story. From what started as a bet in college turned into a pivotal moment of diving into the world of endurance sports. His first marathon was less than ideal, but it taught him a lot, and every race after that, he was able to learn more and more about himself as a runner and find gaps in the nutrition world that eventually led to RNWY. We've got a code for you all as well, so make sure you stick around until the end or check it out in the show notes below to save on your next order at runway.life. Without further ado, let's jump in. Please welcome Cameron. Cameron, thank you so much for coming on the show. Super excited to talk to you. Cameron is the brand owner of RNWY Nutrition, if you haven't heard of it. I guess I'll let you describe it with what the brand is, but welcome on the show. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for having me on. I'm excited.
Cool. So a little bit different today. Obviously, we want to start with your first marathon story, but if you don't mind, maybe giving an introduction to who you are, who the brand is, and we'll get into some specifics about how the brand came up kind of as we talk about your journey.
Absolutely, yeah. Running's been a part of my life for many years, which we'll get into. But yeah, we launched a sports nutrition brand focused on endurance athletes about a year and a half ago. Just realizing that we all want to do what we love for as long as possible, and that a lot of the brands out there aren't serving the needs of like a holistic approach to nutrition. And so, yeah, we created RNWY, and we've got a handful of products that are aimed to helping support your athletic longevity and really provide your body what it needs for the long haul.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm sure it took a lot of personal research from yourself, trial and error, trying a bunch of different stuff. So let's just start from the beginning. How'd you get introduced to running in the first place?
Yeah. So growing up, my family was very active. Like seeing my dad, I remember him on his 40th birthday doing a triathlon and stuff. And this is the early days of triathlon. Now I feel like there's a lot more of them, but seeing him do that, having siblings that were very active, and even my grandparents were really, really active. So being around that, um, I guess just made it easy to want to participate and wanted to keep moving. And so, started running at a very young age, and then ran track, played soccer, and swam. Running then when I got into college, I actually ran at Hope College, just a small D3 school. So it's not like a big D1 athlete or anything, but
Sure.
you can basically walk on there if you really needed to. But I was a 200 and 400 runner, so I was sprinter, and did that for 2 years in college until I realized I'm not going to be a professional athlete and I need to focus on school. And so I ended up double majoring and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like what got me, into the sport was family and seeing the ones closest to me be very active and just physically moving.
Cool. That's great. So you had a little bit of a background in it for sure. How did you make the pivot from being a sprinter to getting into endurance running? Because I know that is very different.
It is very different. Yeah. It kind of was crazy. So it was, I think, either sophomore or junior in college. Um, the Grand Rapids Marathon, it was the very first year of it. And this is back in 2004. So literally 20 years ago, which is crazy to think about. I feel
Yeah, that
old
is crazy.
saying that. Like, but yeah, my first marathon was 20 years ago. So yeah, I basically some friends dared us, me and another buddy, to do the Grand Rapids Marathon. And we thought we were invincible, right? We're college guys. We were like, okay, we can do this. And
Yeah.
we were humbled pretty quickly halfway through that race. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah, so did it by bet. I love that. I love that energy. I think in college that's like the last few years that we can get away with doing anything like that. But that's cool. So how did you train at all? Like what did that look like leading up to the marathon?
Yeah, I mean, I always would run.
Mhm.
And even if like we went on the weekend or whatever, I always had like, okay, I need to make sure if I went out the night before, I'm going to go make up for it and do some miles in the morning. So even though I was a sprinter, I would go for some longer runs, but nothing crazy. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 miles max. And
Sure.
so I remember 2 weekends prior to like signing up for this. And again, this is the very first year. I think there was a max of like 450 people that even
Oh,
did the
wow,
race.
small.
So it's
Yeah.
not like it is now where there's wait lists and there's lotteries and all that type of stuff for a lot of these bigger races. So yeah, we signed up a couple weeks before. We did two, I think, 6 mile runs like on a Saturday and then a Sunday and put them together and you got almost a half marathon. In
Yeah.
my mind, that was kind of like, okay, I can let the energy take me through the second half. Not the case. Not the-
Yeah, so that makes sense. And were you looking into anything in terms of like nutrition at that point, or was there anything you learned from college that helped with that, or this was all like brand new for you?
I mean, this is all brand new, like it is kind of comical now being the owner and founder of a sports nutrition company, right? And like realizing how important education is on some of these things. And I also think it's much different now. I just think nutrition is a big unlock. And when
Yeah,
you can understand your own nutrition, that allows you to unlock your performance. And we're seeing it from the best in the world all the way to the brand new to running customers. But at the time, no, it was wake up, try to get a good night's sleep, even though you're nervous for the race. Wake up, have a good breakfast, and then whatever they had on the course is what they had. I mean, I just remember them having a couple tables. And again, this is like grassroots, probably like what some of the trail races are like now with their aid stations, but it's a table with some food on it and some samples of products. And I didn't have any plan going into that. I just said, okay, I'm going to have what they have on their course, and it's going to hopefully support me.
yeah, figure it out. Love it. Cool. Well, yeah, let's break down the marathon. So you said that you were feeling a little nervous. Is that generally how you were feeling at the start line, or any excitement? Like, what was going through your head?
Yeah, we stayed at my buddy's house because his family lived in Grand Rapids, and we were at Hope College in Holland, Michigan. So we drove over the night before, stayed at his parents' house, and so it's kind of nice. They made us breakfast in the morning. Definitely didn't sleep well that night, and yeah, then they drove us to the race course, the next morning. It was kind of one of those exciting things because this is the first time I've done 5Ks, and I did cross country in high school. Sometimes with track meets, you get those butterflies as well, but it was different because you're in a park. It's a little bit bigger venue, even though there weren't as many people as there are at these races these days. It was still exciting to like line up. And I remember the shoes. I remember walking up, and a girl kind of like said, "Are you gonna run the race in those?" And
Oh
it was
no.
at the time. I mean, they were like a new pair of Nike shoes, but they were like the Zoom Milers or something. It was meant for like a 5K. These were
Oh, sure.
like a fast shoe. And I was like, "What are you talking about? Of course I'm gonna. These are my race shoes."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, definitely that was kind of like the lead up to before we started running. Definitely had some of those nerves going.
Totally. Yeah. Cool. And then so the charted territory for you was 6 miles. Was that the peak mileage for you for that first marathon?
Pretty much, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, again, I would run. I still don't run tons of weekly miles, which
Yeah.
is funny. We'll get into some of the other races that I've done and kind of things I'm up to now. But I'm not like a huge high mileage guy, but I always am running a couple miles here and there each week, right? Of 4 to 5 runs a week probably. I was probably doing that back then, but it was just shorter mileage.
Sure. Yeah. So mentally, that's tough to have a whole lot of uncharted territory in a race. So I guess if you want to break down like how the first 6 miles went, the charted territory for you, and then what ended up happening from there.
Yeah, the first 6 were great. I mean, I remember you're running with some people. In the I'm not sure if the course is still the same, but it went along like there's like a river in Grand Rapids that it goes along, and it's kind of like a wooded area. It's not there's some city streets, but then it goes on to like a bike path basically.
Mm,
And so the first 6 you're with some groups, and then obviously as every race does, right, it thins out a bit. The first half, to be honest, was amazing. Like the first 12 miles, I just remember being like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm almost halfway. This is epic." And then when it hit me was that the very first year, it was just 2 laps. And so as we're coming to the halfway point, right, where you're coming back to the finish,
sure.
I remember seeing people like run by me, right? And just like I'm like, "Wow, they've got a lot of energy." And then they were finishing because they did the half. Meanwhile, there's a cone. Just picture an orange cone that has a flag that just says full, like with an
Oh,
arrow. And
yeah.
then you go around the cone and then you do the exact same thing that you just
Oh,
did. So
brutal.
that I think they changed the course now, I hope, because that I remember being like a real big like, mess me up in the mind of like, oh my gosh, like I gotta do this all over again. Meanwhile, I'm
Totally.
seeing people run by me, finish, they get in the blankets, families are high fiving them, and so that was a big hurdle to like just go around a cone and then now you have to do this all over again.
Totally. Yeah, that's super defeating. I had something similar for my first marathon. Not quite, not the cone. I didn't have to do a circle and do another lap, but I remember we passed the finish line, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I got to come back here in half this race." It's really defeating for sure.
Yeah,
Like
it's
what?
interesting seeing things like that. Even like, Chicago this year, like they changed you at like mile 22, you see people now that are 2 miles ahead of you. They're right next to you, and
Sure.
it adds that mental challenge of like, oh my gosh, I wish I could jump there, right now because I'd be 2 miles further than where I am right now. But yeah, going around that cone, and we weren't going slow. I mean, it was like I don't know, like 135 or something, 140, like half.
Yeah. Yeah.
For not training. That I was like proud of that at the time. But the second half was not the same story.
Yeah. So did you fall into the classic out too quick, and then everything kind of fell apart on the back half?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fell into that. I think nutrition. Looking back now, thinking about it, like nutrition definitely played a role in it. I mean, there were miles that it hurt more to walk than it did to just do a slow shuffle.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was not good. I think the back half was like 2.5 hours. I think I ended up finishing 4:15 or so, 4:13
Still
something,
pretty
which
good for a first marathon. Yeah.
respectable, yeah. But at
Yeah.
the same time, the way I felt for the first half was 180 degrees different from the second half of that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, what if you remember, like, what was going through your head? What was keeping you moving forward? Was it the bet? Were you saying something to yourself? Like, what kept you moving forward?
Yeah, so the my buddy that I was running with, I think we were through like 14, we were together, and then he was really struggling, and
Mm.
so I just said, okay, it hurts more to slow down that much and walk than it does to keep going. So we separated, and so then I was solo for a while, and I remember it wasn't until well 20 or something, an older gentleman was also not feeling the best, and he said, "Come on, let's go." Like kind of like
Yeah, I love it.
almost like physically grabbed my arm and said, let's go, like you got this." And I ran with him for the last seemingly a couple miles. I can't remember exactly where he picked me up, but I remember crossing the finish line like right next to him, and that was kind of a cool moment where like I don't know who he is and what I remember his family at the last like 400 meter. He had some family that came to like cheer him on, so that was kind of cool because they were like going stride for stride in the finish. But yeah, it was tough to like just left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot,
Yeah.
just go, go, go. It's fairly flat, so there wasn't any like hills that I recall, but it was just literally just getting my one foot in front of the other. And yeah, that was a pretty gnarly first go at it.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, I say this all the time on the show, but your first marathon's going to be that trial and error sort of race where you learn a
Yeah.
whole lot about yourself and a whole lot about running, and then you see what you can do from there. So what was the feeling for you when you crossed the finish line? Were you like, I need to do that again and figure out how to do it better? Or were you like, I'm never doing that ever again?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I remember vividly that my buddy's parents were there and they were so worried that he wasn't with me. They're like, "Well, where's
Mm.
he at? Like, where's my son?" So
Yeah, yeah.
it was kind of funny because I like could barely walk and I walked right over to the beer tent and I remember like they had it ready for you, right? And I think I was 20 at the time, so I was like, "Okay, this is cool. I just ran a marathon and I'm gonna drink a beer and have a banana." And then meanwhile, his parents were just like so worried, and he finished like an hour behind me, so they were worried for quite some time. But I remember feeling excited, obviously, that I finished it, and I could like say that I completed a marathon. Go back to my buddies that bet us and say we did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I paid for it the next couple of days, so I couldn't physically walk like normally for almost a week. I think it was bad. I mean, picture
Yeah.
I had a bunk bed. I was up in the top bunk, and
Oh no.
I remember the late night cramps and the seizing of the legs and stuff, blisters, like all the things. I mean, to your point of like trial and error, there's a lot of trying that went on, and a lot of errors as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I guess if you could break it down to like one thing that you learned from your first marathon, what was the lesson you took from that first experience?
I mean, just to get one under my belt, to be honest, and like
Yeah.
feel what it felt like to like do something hard, and like push through it. There were definitely times where I was like, "This is why am I doing this? even though my buddies bet me, I'm fine telling them, nope, couldn't do it.
Sure.
Maybe in the future, but pushing through and having kind of those bragging rights definitely like helped get me through it. But yeah, I think just getting that first one under my belt, and then it kind of did trigger me to want to do more. And the years after that, for probably the next 4 years, I backed it down. I learned my lesson. I did the half marathon the next year,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
then eventually worked back up to marathon. But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, this is cool. That I you know had some endorphins running. I had a good feeling. Maybe not immediately right after, but like fast forward 2 weeks, I was like, okay, that was cool. I paid the price, and I should train for one in the future.
Yeah. Totally. Cool. Well, I guess kind of walk us through what happened from there. So you said that you ran some half marathons in between, but were you all in on endurance sports and like figuring this whole world out, or how did we kind of progress from there?
Yeah, I did. The next couple of years, I think it was something I looked forward to. I was like, okay, the Grand Rapids Marathon. I did it the first year, the inaugural year, but then I was like, okay, I'll do the half the second year, and the third year, and the fourth year. I think I did it for 3 or 4 years. And then I actually moved to Chicago, and so
Hmm.
I didn't do it that year. But what did happen when I moved to Chicago was I was exposed to way more races. Right, there's so many
Yeah.
things in Chicago is an amazing running city, amazing running community. Which was great. And so like one of the races, Nike at the time, it's kind of fun because it's come full circle, but it was called the Nike Human Race, and they were doing a 10K all over the world on the same day. And
Oh, wow.
so like a huge marketing push, right, to get people to
Yeah.
move and to like celebrate the sport of running. And it was at Soldier Field in Chicago, and that was the first time I've ever done an event that big. All the other, these half marathons and even the Grand Rapids, there's 500 people, right? And some of these
Yeah. Yeah.
5Ks, there's some of these smaller cities, you're talking about 100 runners, 300 runners maybe. And then this was the first time there's 10,000 people. And that was the coolest feeling of like, okay, we're all doing this together. Like I can do this. I can do hard things. All of these people can do this together. And I think that was in like 2008. Um, I think it was, yeah, it might have been 2008 where, and it started and finished at Soldier Field. There was a
Cool.
concert afterwards. It was kind of like, I'd say like in the early days of doing these kind of big run events. Now the all world majors and stuff, there's such a big cultural moment and so much energy and activity around all these things. And that was kind of like one of the early pioneers of like trying to get after that energy with the city.
Cool. So yeah, were you like inspired to continue to find like these bigger races since that had been you'd been like having all these local experiences? Is that kind of what came next?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only
Yeah.
inspired to like find bigger races, but I was inspired to like be more involved.
Mm.
And then I actually started working for Nike, for the brand, in 2009, which was my transition into like, and I was on the Nike running group and working with high school athletes. And I drove around a Nike mobile tour doing events every day, every weekend, every week, right? Going to different schools and colleges and stuff to promote products and do gait analysis on running strides and stuff. So
Cool.
it not only wanted me personally to like be more involved with sport and endurance, but also like career wise, I said this is a cool place to be. Like this idea of like supporting health and wellness from a career standpoint, I'd never thought of that until I was around it more often and seeing that happen in Chicago.
Totally. I love the progression of I bet somebody bet me to run a marathon all the way to I'm now going to build my career around the running space. I love that was the path that you were on. That's so cool.
Oh, for sure.
Um
Yeah,
so
and then
I know you
even
oh go
I
yeah,
was
sorry.
I was just gonna say, even when I started at Nike too, I felt I was around a lot of really serious runners,
Yeah.
and it was at this time where they were trying to make some changes and make running more of a lifestyle than just ultra performance, right? And your split leg short guy that's running, ex collegiate or sub professional type of level. And so I also felt like I had to prove it to some of my colleagues that
Mm,
I was invested in more invested in the sport and in the idea of being a different type of runner. I wasn't your D1 or sub professional athlete. I was, yes, I ran at a D3 school, but not at these crazy levels, and I never really did distance. So part of it was also me wanting to push myself and prove myself to the rest of the group and the people that I was around.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a sidebar, but that kind of prompts the question. Like, now we've got all types of runners. I think we're in a space where the running community is very inclusive. You have the average runner all the way up to the elite runner. We're all treated relatively the same. There's still some work we can do, but definitely a more of an even playing field. In like 2008, 2009, when you were building your career around the running space, like what was that like? Were you the outlier if you weren't the like elite runner in the group?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and it was kind of cool to try to break that mold a little bit.
Yeah.
I think at the time, and so I was helping with running specialty stores too, and so I think it was great because I was a more approachable, I think, like rep, right, to connect with the masses instead of just the race teams or just the top, couple percent of this running group. And yeah, so it was kind of nice to see this evolution change, and it continues to morph and evolve. And now, we see like running is having another boom right now, which is amazing to see. And we're primed as Runway to be right there to helping support not only the elite athletes, but all the way down to brand new to running and don't know what to do for nutrition and beyond the run. And so that's why we created our brand, right, to help all of these different types of athletes.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's so important to have brands that support those runners because I think the vast majority of us are in that category. So it's a huge market for sure. Cool. Well, where did we progress from there? So you got brought on with Nike. When did, I guess, your second marathon or third marathon? When did that come into the picture for you?
Yeah, it's kind of Bank of America, Chicago Marathon, right? Is Nike's a sponsor of that, and so working for the brand for the running group, we were able to be exposed to a lot of these marathon expos, and then also the brand would have brand bibs and stuff that people could leverage if you were an employee. And again, there wasn't the lottery, and it wasn't the crazy chase there is now to get some of these, and so there was a number of years that what we call like the full marathon, and that's when you work the expo for the 3 or 4 days. You're on your feet the whole time. You're also going out at night for dinners and drinks and
Yeah.
things, and then you end up going and running the actual full marathon. So that's what we like to call like the full marathon when you work the expo, and then you still get up on Sunday and do that race. So that
Wow.
we did that a couple, and I didn't properly train for those years either, but I was more fit than I was on the first one, and I knew my body a little bit more too of like what I can push. Obviously, I don't want to get injured, but where I can push and whatnot. And I was younger, so I I had that at
Bounce
my
back.
yeah, for
Cool.
sure. Yeah, so
And
that
hopefully
was
shoes. Hopefully shoes
yeah,
were in the picture.
absolutely, yeah. The blisters and we're gone at that point. So.
Cool. And you said that you were changing some stuff, maybe not training to how you would train like now for a marathon, but what were some of the things that changed between what you did for your first marathon to, like second, third, fourth? What was evolving for you?
Yeah, more consistent running, I think, and then also just doing some longer runs, which I again on the first one obviously learned my lesson there, but doing longer runs on the weekends. I moved to Portland, so after I was in Chicago for a while, I lived in Portland because I was at Nike for almost 10 years, and lived in Portland for about 10 years. And there's a really great trail system that's very close to
Yes.
downtown, and it was great because I could just go and you kind of get lost. You could do 7 miles out, 7 miles back, and all of a sudden you did a half marathon or 20, 14 miles with some elevation and some, you know, terrain that helps you build some of those intricate muscles within your feet and your legs. So that a lot of my training ones were on some of those trails, and just getting some more miles in was kind of like a key, I think, to me enjoying the longer run. And it's also fun to run in those trails, and you kind of just you get lost, and then the next thing you know, 2 hours goes by, and you're just having a blast on some of these single tracks on Wildwood and Leif Erikson Trail and stuff.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Definitely spoiled in Oregon with the trail systems, but that's great. So, did you have any goals at that point? I know you didn't have any goals really for your first marathon, other than like finish, obviously. But like, did you have something that you were chasing at this point, or we were just running to run?
Just still running to run.
Yeah.
I started, I think I did like a 320, 320, 330. So again, it was fine. It's, 7 minute, 7:30 pace, just cruising. And I feel like I could do that kind of for a while at that point. But no goals. I had some friends that we would run with, which is great. That I think that's another thing that that changed. I started running with some groups. There's a group called the Stump Runners that still exists in Portland, which is great because it's just a bunch of friends that we would get together. And then I have some other really close friends that we would just go for long runs on the weekends and meet up and get coffee afterwards and stuff. So that was great when you have an accountability system like that and something you look forward to. So it didn't feel like a dreadful long run by myself or anything. You would go out with friends and enjoy the miles together. Um, yeah, and then I think that's where started seeing some of my friends actually have some more serious goals, and I'm like, wait, okay, maybe I could do 3:15, maybe I could do 3 hours, maybe I could like drop the time down. So it wasn't until a couple years ago that I was like, okay, let me actually properly train for something and see if I can, muster out a pretty good time.
Cool. Yeah, and I think I saw before you ran about 20 marathons, is that right? Or more? Less?
Probably
Yeah.
like full marathons, probably like 10 or 12, bunch of halves because
Oh, cool.
we had the Nike Women's Series at the time, which was like a race series that was in San Francisco that in a couple other cities that they're kind of bringing back now, which is exciting. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of full circle to see that they did
Yeah.
the Nike Plus, race in 2008, and now they're doing a women's series all over the world that's happening right now, which Runway is a little bit of a part of as well. So
So cool.
yeah, kind of cool to see that come around full circle.
Totally. Yeah. Cool. So you had quite a few marathons. I guess if you give or take, like how many marathons did you run before you decided I'm going to train start to finish for this thing differently than I've trained before?
Probably like four. It's probably those ones that when I quoted the full marathon, right, the approach to doing the expo, and then that I realized, okay, if I want to actually run a good time, it's harder. It's hard to work
Yeah.
the expo, be on your feet for 18 hours, or for 3 days in a row, um, leading up to that. And so, yeah, it wasn't until I think I left Nike actually and was kind of found running to be just a part of my life now. And that's when I said, okay, I should probably focus on this a little bit. My older sister, she's a great athlete as well, and I ran Chicago Marathon with her, stride for stride, and was able to help her achieve Boston qualifying
Wow.
time, which was great. And so that was one that I was like, okay, she had this goal, very specific goal, and wanted to get to this, and I was able to help her achieve that, which was kind of fun. So then I said, okay, what if I'm a little selfish? Like, what's that look like for me, to try to achieve that?
Totally. Yeah, totally. And I guess yeah, what was that the first I guess let's break down that race. The one where you felt like you had goals, you trained properly, you were able to kind of achieve what you were hoping to achieve. What was different about training? I'm sure there was a lot of things, but what was different about how you put together the training plan, what you were thinking about with fueling, like what did all that look like?
Yeah, it just was a little bit more of all of it, to be honest. This is back when I moved back to Chicago in 2020 during the pandemic, and I was working for Vital Proteins,
Mm,
is a big collagen company here
yeah.
in Chicago, and so I moved back and I was overseeing our sport performance side of the business with Kurt and in the whole Vital team, and that's when I started more seriously thinking about, okay, I'm back in the city. Obviously, health and wellness is a very important thing. I think everybody learned during the pandemic, like you're a lot of people were running, a lot of people came new to the sport, which is great. And then that's when I got a little bit more serious with it. Started actually doing some like true long runs and trying to do some speed workout and just pushing my body. But it wasn't until probably 2022 when I did the Chicago Marathon a little bit more seriously. And I have a group that I run with called Run Too Hard here in Chicago, as well as the Heartbreak team and the Fleet Feet team. So there's, like I said, Chicago is such a flourishing city when it comes to the types of groups. And there's probably 20 or 30 different like run crews, run clubs that are all over the city. And some just are coffee or beer miles. Some are real serious training runs.
Yeah.
Some are just long runs. So intermixing with a few of those groups, what kind of was one of the things that changed. And then also having worked at Vital and then starting to really focus on nutrition, and that's a big unlock. Focusing on that as well of like fueling for some long runs. Before it would be, you'd get water out of drinking fountain that you saw on the
Sure.
street, and so now it's like, okay, I'm more making more intentional decisions before I even leave the door of what is this run? How does this run? What's the purpose of this run? Is it just to go out and get some time on feed? Is it to go see friends? Is it to like really start grinding and get some core training in? Making sure every run has kind of that intention. And sometimes that intention could just be stress relief, and I just need to go out for an hour and clear my mind. And that's what that purpose was. But as I started to do more training leading up to the fall, a lot of those weekend runs became more serious. And
Yeah.
then my daughter, I have a 5-year-old, going on 15 basically, but she was like 3 at the time, and in growing, like even when she was young during the pandemic, I would just do runs. She was about a year old, and I would do runs, and she loved it. She just like kind of hang out, and so she called them our adventure runs. And so on my 20 milers, I would just take the jogger,
Oh,
which
love it.
in hindsight probably made me stronger because I was like, I'm pushing,
Yeah.
50, 60 pounds. But we would just go out for 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes. And we just called them our adventure runs. And she was old enough that she can talk and say, I want to go here, I want to do there. Oh, there's a park. So that was kind of fun to like, and I would get 20 miles in with her, 20, 18, 20, 21 miles, but it would be broken up a little bit. Where we'd stop and she'd want to get an orange juice or get a
Yeah, of
donut or
course.
whatever. Like, and I didn't take it too seriously too. That's another thing that I've personally have realized when I don't take it so serious every single time. And it's like, it's okay to like, life happens. Things are going to move. Things are going to change, and you're going to have obstacles. And it's not always going to be like, here's your plan. Let me lay it on top of my life and make sure everything works perfectly.
Totally.
So I didn't take those too seriously. And I think because of that, I was able to enjoy it and have fun with it. And it wasn't until this last year that some of the long runs, I said, okay, she's older now and bigger as well. So like it got a little tricky pushing, but I also was going a lot quicker and needed to like dial in some of those long runs. So this past year when I ran Chicago, I snuck right under 3 hours, which was my PR, which is great. And but some of those runs were more intentional. That I didn't have a distraction. I had my fueling dialed in trying different things and experimenting on those runs.
Love it. Cool.
Yeah.
And that Chicago run that you just mentioned, that what we were talking before, we know you're running Boston. Spoiler alert, coming up. Very good timing as it's literally what, this weekend? Coming up on
Yeah.
Saturday or
I mean,
Sunday?
I literally have a suitcase that I'm starting to pack over here. I just got a fresh pair of racing shoes that I tried on for the first time yesterday. So it's Boston mindset right now.
Love it. That's cool. Yeah, good timing. But was that the race that you were able to get your BQ?
It was the year before actually. I did 302, and also it helps that I just turned 40. And so it was crazy when we said like first marathon was 2004 because that's literally 20 years ago. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I just turned 40. So fortunately I got a few more minutes. And then when they added the kicker last year, I I I was able to sneak in under with, I think I had a minute to spare or something. And that was 2 years ago. And then this past year, yeah, I got under 3. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have a great Boston this year and maybe want to do it in the future again.
Cool. I'm excited to see how it turns out. That's so exciting. Well, I want to pivot back to the brand a little bit because the brand is something that came about in the last, you said, year and a half or so. What, I guess, gap did you see in the fueling space that you felt like I need to fill,
Yeah, well, I think it started even before that. So when I moved back, I mentioned, I worked for Vital Proteins, and
Yeah.
a lot of people they associate like collagen with the beauty benefits because those are things that you see. But a lot of people don't know that the founder, his name's Kurt Seidensticker, he founded Vital because he was a runner and he had knee pain,
Oh, stop. I
and
didn't know that.
yeah, and he enjoyed going on a few miles everywhere he traveled, and as he got older, he wasn't able to do some of these things because of some joint discomfort and joint issues, which he is not alone. There's millions of people that deal with this stuff. So
Totally.
at the time, collagen wasn't even like a category. Now you go in the grocery store, right, and it's literally its own section in there. But the real intent of it was for joint support, and so he brought me on to help try to reconnect athletes with collagen and with better for you supplementation, and which is great. And then that's really where my understanding for nutrition and like how important that is in not only your day-to-day life, but also if you do have these like kind of key milestone moments that you want to achieve something, you need to train for that, but also like look at your nutrition, understand your body, what works, what doesn't work. Yeah, so that was in 2020. And then in 2022, there was an acquisition with Nestle. So
Mm,
Nestle Health and Science bought Vital Proteins, which was an amazing exit, and lots of great celebrations around that. But they didn't want to necessarily focus on the athletic side of the business. They wanted to focus on the beauty aspects.
yeah.
So at the time, they actually shut down a lot of the sport performance stuff, and that's when left and said, okay, like what could this look like if we create a standalone brand that it creates better for you products for endurance athletes that really help support this idea of longevity.
Yeah.
And are there incremental ways where you can have a better health span and enjoy your life and continue doing what you love for as long as possible? And we said, okay, let's look at this. So we pulled a couple hundred athletes. Luckily, when I was at Nike, I met a lot of professional athletes, and I'm really close friends with a lot of them. And so that's the top tier athlete, all the way down to people that are just doing the first 5K, right? And we connected with all these people. We had almost hour-long Zoom interviews. I wish I would have recorded them in hindsight, because yeah, some were with Olympians, some were with triathletes, cyclists, everyday runners, everybody in between,
Yeah.
which is great. And so we said, what are you taking, not taking? What's your perception of supplementation? What's your perception of, like nutrition and like all of these things? And we learned so much. And we also realized that a lot of endurance athletes don't have the best routine. They don't have the best nutrition.
Yep.
And sometimes they get confused and they just say, oh, there's so much to choose from and so many things. And so that's where the name Runway came from. We want to be like your guide. We want to be your runway to help extend your athletic longevity, your active lifestyle. And also we want to like simplify routines. And so that's a lot of our products combine different elements that people might have been taking one of them, but wish they would have taken this other thing. And so we put those together, or they're taking two or three different things. What can we bring together in like a more simpler product offering? And that's kind of what we have now. So we've got 3 products out, and we're getting ready to launch a 4th this summer, which we're excited about.
Exciting.
But all of them incorporate this idea of optimize or energize, optimize, and prolong is kind of our 3 brand tenets. And so they're all meant to complement each other, but really complement like your routine.
Cool. That's really fascinating. I'm curious about like you did all that research in the beginning from I love that you were able to talk to a bunch of different athletes too. What how did you narrow down the product line that you were going to come out with first? Cuz I my mind would be spinning if I got all those opinions from all those different people.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Like I'm not a statistician, but I feel like if I would have plotted all these things out, right, the things that popped up, hydration and electrolytes,
Yeah.
joint issues. Okay, well, how do we solve some joint pain? Okay, collagen could be a thing. A runner's multivitamin, things that people are deficient in. There was like some spikes on some certain ingredients. And then when we talked about like, what do you take? What do you wish you took more of? Like protein came up, creatine, um, energy in general, caffeine. Like there's a bunch of larger elements that were very, very consistent amongst all of these different types of like kind of running personas, if you will. And then we said, okay, what can we pull together? Our first versions of certain things that we would taste and try were way more. We had adaptogens, we had some other stuff, and
Sure.
it you put too many things in and it can get gnarly. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
we had to like edit it back a little bit. Also, it would have been like a $300 product or something. It was just
Mm,
it was your all in one. And there definitely are other brands that are trying to like throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. But we kind of separated it, and we have our first product we launched with. It's called RNWY Foundation, and it's meant to like start your day with this solid foundation, and then throughout the day you can build on top of that, right? And so
yeah.
it is an electrolyte mix, collagen, and then like a multivitamin all in one. And so it's great because people were taking these things separate, and now we made a delicious drink. It's a powdered, just 2 tablespoons of our mix in a glass of water, and like start your day strong with that. So it's got 10 grams of collagen. It's got almost 1,500 milligrams of electrolytes, and it's a more balanced electrolyte kind of mixture. Not all sodium. There's
Mm,
6 different minerals that we leverage, so it's more meant for like a daily daily drinker, and then like a Tune multivitamin.
That's really cool. I'm
Yeah,
just fascinated listening.
yeah,
So I guess when for you, like I'm sure you do a lot of product testing with a lot of this stuff. Like, what differences did you notice in your own personal running, trying some of your own products?
yeah. Well, it's kind of goes back to Vital, I guess, because this was 10 years ago. I had back surgery. So
Mm.
I somehow, when I was younger, maybe it was when I did the marathon and I shouldn't have, 20
Sure.
years ago. But I had a severe disc herniation. I barely could walk. I couldn't bend over. Like, to cough or sneeze was like the worst pain, and you don't realize that. And anybody that's had like a nerve issue or a back issue, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about, of like the fear of sneezing or fear of coughing or like a sudden movement. Was it just sends these nerve pains that you wouldn't believe. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 30 years old. I'm having back surgery. I remember the doctor, the very first time I went for like the surgeon consult, like he pulled the curtain back and he goes, "Whoa, you're different than what I'm used to seeing." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Everybody around here is 60, 70, 80 years old. Like, you're young. What
Mm.
they assumed it was a car accident or a golfing injury." And I was like, "No, I don't know. It's been bad." So fortunately, I've been blessed that I can run. I have run many marathons since and stuff. But it was at that moment that I said, okay, I need to take better care of my body.
Mm.
And I am, even though I was only 30 at the time, I am getting older and starting to like change. And so actually, like, yeah, that's when I started, doing protein shakes more frequently. I would add collagen actually into my protein shake. And this is, I didn't work for Vital, but I started putting Vital proteins because I saw it at Costco. My wife was using it. And so I said, okay, let me try some of that stuff. So I had like kind of unknowingly like started to integrate some of this stuff in my daily routine. And then it's kind of serendipitous because now then fast forward, right, a couple years after that, I moved back to Chicago to work for Vital, and now am selfishly making products that serve myself, but also,
Yeah.
millions of other people as they continue to like move through life and want to take care of their bodies in a better way.
That's so cool. I love it. Where do you see, without obviously revealing any secrets that are coming out over the next couple of years, but like where do you see the company going from here? What are some of your goals? What are some of the things that you're excited about?
Yeah. Well, we're launching a new product in a couple months, which I'm excited about. So I mentioned we have our foundation product.
Yeah.
We then launched our complete protein, which is meant for like post-workout recovery. So it is a vegan-based protein powder from fermented nutritional yeast, which is actually a really unique like protein form. It's a complete protein. It's got all your essential amino acids, and ultra smooth like digesting. It doesn't cause any stomach issues that some people
Yeah.
have with whey products, and also some people have issues with kind of plant-based products. And so, but what's unique also is that we added 5 grams of creatine as well as some digestive enzymes. And so it's a really nice, like I use it as like a post-workout recovery. Some people, you
Yeah.
can also have it as like a breakfast shake if you wanted to, or kind of for your protein intake and lean muscle mass. And then so that was our second product, and the third product was, we called it Extra Mile,
Yeah.
um,
I use it
which
almost every day. It's
oh,
delicious.
nice, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, this one is kind of a fun one because a lot of endurance athletes, if you say the word like pre-workout, like they're kind of afraid of it almost.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the extreme endurance athletes, like the top tier, they have, cyclists especially, they've done beetroot juices and like a lot of things that are vasodilators that help get the blood flow going. Every runner that we talked with has coffee, and they said, don't mess with my coffee routine and don't make me have to like choose between one of your products that might have caffeine and my coffee, because like my coffee's going to win every time. I don't want to
Yeah.
change that. And
Yep.
so, and also we didn't want to like negatively affect your heart rate. And so when you look at a lot of these pre-workouts that are on the market, and they're just 200, 300 milligrams of caffeine and tons of beta alanine, a lot of other ingredients that when you pull them together, yeah, you could feel like
Yeah,
you're going a
jittery.
little
It's
crazy,
uncomfortable.
jittery,
Yeah.
tingles. So we didn't want that. We wanted like a stim-free kind of pre-workout that gets you going, gets you motivated, kind of locked in, but also opens up some blood flow. Because the big like the long view of like Extra Mile is that because you can push yourself a little bit harder because you were allowed to have a little bit more blood flow, you then can go into anaerobic state, right? And the more frequently and the longer you go in anaerobic state is how you improve your VO2 max. And your VO2 max is a key indicator of your longevity in your life and your health, right? As you get older, that becomes a very important thing. Obviously in your 90s and it's getting up and down stairs and getting up and out of chairs easily and stuff. But even when you're younger, it's pushing yourself a little bit harder so that way you can like compound that extra effort over time. And those track workouts, they can go a little bit harder, right? Then help free marathon training and allowing you to like just push yourself and take yourself to like the next level. And
Totally.
then kind of fun on the packaging. I know it's I think I have some. It's there we go. It's like silver and reflective.
Yeah, it's good.
And the inspiration was the Mylar blankets, right? So like
Oh, cool. That's such a good
yeah,
idea.
and it's kind of hard to read the black writing on the packaging, but yeah, that was the inspiration. We just said, okay, it's a cool feeling. It's like, yes, you get your medal, but I still have my Mylar blankets from New York City Marathon, from last year's
Totally.
Chicago. Like I still have those. My wife probably is going to throw them away someday, but until then, it's kind of a token, right? A memory from that race, and so that's kind of what was the inspiration for even the packaging. And so it's kind of fun as we continue to grow the brand and have those little nuggets in there of kind of Easter eggs, I guess, if you will, for runners and endurance athletes to find. And then the fourth product that's going to round out our whole portfolio is going to be a carbohydrate plus electrolyte product. So
Cool.
we're really
Oh, I'm
excited.
excited.
Yeah, the whole brand has been like a holistic approach to nutrition, right?
Yeah.
And almost, I think 90% of our core competitors, all they have is your in-run nutrition and your in-run carbs, which is great because you need that. And that's why we intentionally launched the other products to like complement that. But we time and time, probably every day, we get a message saying, hey, like, when are you going to make something that I can use during my run? And so yeah, so this later this summer, we'll have the carb plus electrolyte mix. And that's actually what I've been training with this training block. And that's what I will have in my bottle for Boston on
Cool.
Monday, which is exciting. So, and then I did the speed project. I don't know if you know what the speed project is.
I don't think so.
So it's kind of like a unsanctioned, unsupported relay race from LA to Vegas. And so this
I
was
have heard of this. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, this was 2 weeks ago. And I took a bag of our carb product to share with the team, and we put it to the ultimate test because our RV got stuck in some sand, and so the other runners for almost like I think it was like 12 hours. We were
Yeah.
just in a van. We had 2 gallons of water, we had 2 Uncrustables, and we had our carb product, and it got us through the night. We had a 50-mile segment that we had to push through, and it was kind of funny after that. And I told him, I said, hey, like, this is nobody's ever used this before other than
Yeah. Yeah.
myself
You're
and our
testing
tester.
it.
Yeah. Other
Yeah.
than our testers and stuff. But I was like, I wouldn't normally suggest like to try a brand new product when this is literally the only thing that we have. This is the only substance that we have in the vehicle and this is, I mean, we're in the desert. There's nothing around
Sure. Yeah.
for the next like 10 hours. And so all of them, it was kind of fun after where they were like, hey, let me know when that product launches. I'm going to leave a review because that got us through the desert. Like that was the solo product, right? So it was kind of fun it made me nervous too, but it was kind of fun to put it to the ultimate test there. So I'll do the same thing on Monday. I'll have some gels as well.
Yeah.
All of our products are powdered products right now, and probably will be for the foreseeable future as well. But I'll have some gels on me, that some Martin gels that I use usually.
Cool. Well, I know for me personally, like anytime I can drink a carb, I'm way happier than if I have to try to take a carb through a gel. Just getting enough in during a marathon or any like long run leading up to training is really tough.
Yeah,
So I'm excited about it. Anytime I can drink a carb, I'm in.
same here. Yeah, and it's good to actually sip as well. Like, and this is for my training. Like, and again, you talked about like what have we learned, and so I've been
Yeah.
trying to try different things where I will take a gel quickly or take a gel and only have little bits of it, and over the course of a mile have some of it. And same thing with when I run with like a soft flask or a water bottle in my hand. It's nice because I can run with it and then take water as I need. And then during a race, I definitely have used that same soft flask and just filled up with water, Gatorade, or whatever's on the course.
Cool.
Um, I'll try to. I think for Boston, I'm going to have just a little pouch of my own product in there that I can mix on the run. It is a hard thing to run, at 6:30, 7 minute pace and mix it. I did it,
Yeah.
I've done it, but it's not the easiest thing. And I'm not at the level where I've got support out there handing me bottles and stuff.
Sure.
My family won't be able to come to Boston, or else maybe I'd have my wife out there handing me a fresh bottle like she did last year at Chicago. But yeah, it's nice to sip it. And again, nutrition is very individual, right? So if you're
Yeah,
150 pounds versus 200 pounds, salty sweaters, not salty sweater, like you got to really figure out what works for you
totally.
and dial in those ratios of how frequent you're taking nutrition. And one of the lessons I probably 4 years ago I would do it by miles, and now I am better um, just doing it by time, because I realize
Yeah,
if you do it by miles and you're struggling, you're not getting the nutrition you need, because it's time on feet, and your
totally.
body's still moving. Versus if you're running a 5 minute pace versus a 10 minute pace, right? That's you're going to have drastically different times if you're just doing it by your miles. And so I've made the switch to be more focused on time based nutrition versus distance. That's a big learning too for other people out there that are just getting started as well.
Yeah, that's huge for sure, especially because you're running like the longer you run, the more you're going to change. You're going to naturally get faster the longer that you run. So, doing it by mileage, you're going to have to change it eventually. So, it's better to just start, I think, doing it by time from the beginning. What is your strategy? Is it like every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes? What do you typically
I've been
do?
training with every 30, or
Mhm.
trying to. The last two long runs though, it's funny. I had gels, and then I like just got lost in the run, and I looked down and I was like, oh man, it's been 45 minutes. Oops, it's been 50 minutes. So,
Yeah.
um, but I usually do about 30 minutes. That's my plan at least, and then
Cool.
hopefully I'll come in around 3 hours, 3:15. I don't really have a time goal for Boston. I want to have fun.
Yeah, enjoy
I've
it.
been there in the city because like I said, I worked for Nike, and so we did a lot of activations there. And I've been there probably six or seven Boston Marathon like weekends. I've like felt the energy and stuff, so I'm really excited to be on the other side and be the participant, not just a spectator.
Totally. That's so exciting. I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess we kind of dug into some of this stuff, but I like to wrap up the show with a couple fun questions about fuel. So very on topic for this one, but fuel,
Perfect.
shoes, and we've been starting to talk about socks. Someone's got to let me know if I should keep talking about socks. But starting with fuel, what is your favorite product for? I guess like a gel or a non-runway product that you like to use, and then out of your product line, if you have a favorite, what's your go-to?
Yeah, I didn't like the Martin gels, or Morton
Mm,
gels. Martin,
yeah,
Morton. There's debates on how you say it, I think. But
yeah.
I didn't like them for a while, and that's what I've been training with this training block. I last year I used the BPN Go gels, which are
Hmm.
nice. They're
Hmm.
more like fruit food feeling versus like aerospace gel, like
Yeah.
a Morton. But yeah, I've enjoyed the Mortons, and then that's why my wife, she's a big runner as well, and that's what she uses. So it's nice because usually she has them in the cupboard.
Just steal
And
one.
yeah, she definitely made me reorder the other day. But that's from a gel perspective. That's what it is. And then from a powder perspective, I guess it's really just our product that I use. I have done electrolyte packets in the past and stuff, but excited to use my own product for this time around.
Cool, exciting. And then shoes. What have you liked for shoes over time?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years at Nike, right? I have some brand. I'm loyal to the brand most for most days, but I actually am gonna run in an Adidas shoe this year.
Oh, we're a trader this year.
So I I did test, like, this is 8 years ago probably. I was doing testing for what then became the Alpha Fly,
Mm.
or Vaporfly, I guess it was at the time. And I actually really liked the last couple of Vaporflies. I ran Chicago, and the last like 3 or 4 races I've done in the Vaporfly, which I really liked. And then a buddy at Adidas hooked it up with the new Pro Fours, and I like fell in love with it. So I did a 20 miler out of the box. Just brought the shoes out, 20 miles, felt amazing, no blisters, no hot spots. And anytime you can do that with a shoe, 20 miles out of the box at 7-minute pace, I was like, okay, this feels
There's
good.
something here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm gonna run that same shoe on Monday. I still
Cool.
do like the Vaporflies. I like the Pro 4s. I've tried some ons as well and really like those as well. But most of my training miles have been in like the Vomero or the Pegasus
Cool.
or Cloud Monster, and then for the racing, it'll be the Pro 4 this time around.
Exciting. Cool. I just got the Vomeros. I had never tried them before, but I really like them. I've only
It's
tested them a couple times, but I'm thinking about them for my marathon at the end of the month. They're really comfortable.
Yeah, there's a couple of shoes like that. Like I think it's like the 18th or 19th version, and that means
Yeah, I
like
think I got
for
the 18 or something.
18 or 19 years. It's like same thing with the Pegasus. I think it's like 40, like for 40 versions of that. And
Yeah,
so anytime you see what some of those higher numbers, at least in the Nike product system, it's like kind of a tried and true shoe because it's been around for so long.
totally.
Um, but a lot of people don't know. Yeah, the Vomero's a great high-end cushioning shoe, and now with the whole maximalist craze, it just kind of blends in with all the giant shoes out there these days.
Totally. Yeah, they've got some good colors too, I'll say. They did a good job with that.
Oh, for sure.
Cool. And then socks. Are you a sock guy? So I've asked this question on the last probably 5, 6 episodes, and I've gotten mixed bags. It's either like I'll grab something out of the the laundry and that's what I use, or I have a specific sock. So what do you
I
like?
usually actually have a specific one. Yeah, there's Features makes
Oh
really
yeah,
good,
yeah.
really good
Love
shoes,
features.
or sorry, really good socks. And yeah, I've been it's I like I said, I just turned 40, and so if I wear an ankle sock, I'm showing my age. So
Sure.
I gotta
The
have the
crew.
crew length anytime I'm running with my younger friends. But it is kind of fun when people are like, "Wait, you're 40? Oh my gosh!" I mean, I'm usually running with 25-year-olds,
Yeah.
30-year-olds. But yeah, I like the Features crew. I That's the one thing I want to try to get when I go to Boston at the expo or whatever, because I got this new Adidas shoes, so I gotta try to have like a color hookup with my shoes and the socks. So we'll see what's out there.
Cool. Yeah, the expos always seem to have really cool stuff, so I'm sure you'll find something.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for walking through your story and walking us through the story of how the brand all came about. Everything's really exciting. I will say, I personally use the product quite a bit. I've got the protein powder actually, literally sitting right here,
Nice.
and I use the extra mile every morning. So highly recommend. And y'all have been nice enough to provide us with a code. So if you want to save some money, My First Marathon is the code that you can use for 20% off your next order at runway.life. Runway.life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So save some money there. But thank you again for walking through your story. And if anybody wants to follow along with your Boston journey, because we all got to figure out how that turns out, where can they find you?
Yeah. I mean, you can search my name, and then also just on Instagram, my handle's my name, and then obviously runway.life is our Instagram handle as well. And we'll be posting some things there. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and this is great to talk with you.
Awesome. Thanks again. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode. If you're enjoying My First Marathon, it would mean the world to me if you could rate and review the show. As a reminder, check out myfirstmarathonpodcast.com for free resources, and if you can't get enough MFM for $5 a month, you can also get access to extended episodes, bonus content, and a Q&A corner featuring some of our most popular guests. Check out the exclusives tab on the website for more information. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.